Thank you very much. And I will begin with the question I made to the Commissioner, and I was very glad to hear his answer, because when I asked what he thought about the district approach, he said that was a very good approach. So I think that's a good message for the vote tomorrow. I don't want to put pressure at all. No, because I think that's very important to recall that and to see that. As I was saying at the beginning, I think that we have to think about ecosystem, most of all, because that's a good thing to see the building, but we can't think about an isolated building, because a building is always a part of something bigger. That's because we have to say that a city, a district, a neighborhood is always like a living body. We have a heart, we have a head, we have some veins, we have some muscles. So then you can have a very energy efficient heart, but if the whole body is not efficient, that doesn't work at all. So we have always to have this look. So that's why we need to think about the district, about its social functions, about how it works within that, and at the same time to see the bad examples, because I come from Spain, and I have to say that we have some very bad examples of, for example, very good isolated buildings, but buildings that are very, very far from the center, for example. So you can win a lot of energy efficiency in the building, but at the same time you have to take your car to get to the center, and you have all the bad and non-energy benefits with that. So that's a bad example of what we don't want. And at the same time, for example, what we did bad in Spain was to build a lot of good energy efficiency building, but at the same time we didn't need these buildings because we have 3 million housing totally empty. So I think that's why we need to put in the EPPD this district approach, to have this global and holistic approach to understand that an isolated building is not an end in itself. It has to be a part of something bigger. And in that case, for example, if we talk about air quality, that's the same thing. We can have a very good air quality inside the building, but at the same time, if you have a bad air quality outside environment, well, that's not a good job. So we have to enter this transversal, holistic, global, broad approach inside the EPPD to be sure that everything is connected, as the Commissioner Canete said. And in this approach, I think that we have to go back to the e-mobility and mobility debate that we had a lot of times with a lot of you. And I think I have to recall once more our position, because we think as Greens that when we talk about mobility, we have to talk about soft mobility as a concept, because the best mobility is the mobility that doesn't create any rebound effect, for example, that doesn't create any CO2, that doesn't use too much materials, for example, in water. And in that broad view, the best thing is to have soft mobility. That means bikes, for example, or to go walking to school. So e-mobility must be a part of this soft mobility. So that's why I call to reinforce in this report this soft mobility approach. Most of all, for example, to have parking places for bikes in the EPPD report, because that will be a good message to the European Commission that is waiting for us to say something ambitious. And if we think about this district approach and the soft mobility approach, that's where we have this big role of the cities, because who knows better this situation? Who is doing already this change on the local level? That's the cities. That's the cities. They're doing that. We put some good wordings in the EPPD report on financing, but I think we can do some more, because we have to recognize that the cities, that the local authorities, for example, through the government of mayors, smart cities and communities, well, we have a lot of cities doing very, very well. So much more than the states, for example. I think that the cities are the key player in this change, and we have to put them inside, because they have this district approach, they have this neighborhood approach, they have this good holistic approach that they can use. So that's why we put some amendments in that sense, and I really hope that we can have this district approach that we can call the near zero energy district, not only the near zero energy building, because that will be a way to recognize that if we be able to have this zero energy district, we can go a step further and have a very ambitious target as European Parliament then in the negotiation, when I hope Ben will be with a good position to do that. And I just want to end with a last word, nothing to see with the district, but I will use my word to say something. That's about gender. Because you know that in COP23, we will have the next climate summit, International Climate Summit, and the Fiji presidency said that gender will be a priority in COP23 because they say clearly that if we want to solve the climate change issue, if we want to have a good energy transition, we need to put gender in the center. So that's why I really hope that the amendment that we have on gender, based on the gender mainstreaming of the European Parliament, can enter because we really have to put women's rights, gender, in the center of the change too, because women are a key player for change. Thank you very much.